Hello all, welcome to this video where we are going to take a look at exceptional handling. Now, exception handling is a very useful construct, especially when we are building professional applications. As we have seen, if any error comes in while you're running the program basically bombs out and crashes. So for example, if I'm a Windows Form app and some error happens, the form is going to be killed or the application basically dies. So let me actually create an exception and show you what I mean. So this is a simple forms app. There's nothing here. I just created this project. Just going to add a button here. And in the button, we are going to do something which we know for sure is going to lead to a crash. Let me just go and change this button. Let's call it something else. Text. Let's say run. Run is okay. Now in run, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to do a division by 0. So I'm going to create a double value. Say double A is equal to 10 divided by 0. Oh, this is 9 divided by, let's first say 10 divided by 9, and then I'm just going to show a message box dot show, say answer is, and then we are going to do A, and remember we'll have to convert it to a string. So this whatever value that A comes up, that will come up in the message box. So right now let's run this without an exception. So we are running the application, the form is being compiled, and it's going to come up. So here's my form. If I press run, the answer should be 10. And we can check it, right? Let's divide by 10 divided by 2. Then the answer is going to be 5. Now let's do this. Let's divide something by 0. And we know division by 0 is not a valid operation. Let me actually set this to a double, because it's allowing when you're using double variables, you have to explicitly give a decimal, because the 0 is unknown. So previously we had 1 and 5. It was taking those values, but it needs 10.0 when you are dividing it by 0. Okay, so this actually, because we are using a double value, it's actually giving an answer as infinity. Now the answer by division by 0 is infinity is actually correct, and doubles in C# can actually show infinity, so we are still not getting the exception. However, int has no infinity. So with int, and in Visual Studio now they have a check. So if you are using a constant, it warns you that this is a division by 0, so it's not going to let you compile. So what we need to do is create another variable b, and we are going to divide it by b. Now the compiler does not give an error in these situations, and I need to remove the decimal because this is an integer. Because b is a variable, and the compiler, since you haven't run the program, doesn't know what value b contains. Even though we are doing an assignment here, it's technically can be possible where we ask the user to enter the value of b. So these kind of things can only be determined when you run the program and not while you are compiling. So as you can see, Visual Studio has some really good intelligence to warn you before you even run the program. But in our case, we are trying to create an exception, so we have to take this alternate route where we assign a variable as 0 and do a division by 0 error here. Now let's run this program. Now this should not give us an infinity. There you go, you get an error, division by 0 exception. So right now we are running this in Visual Studio. Now let's say you give this program to somebody, and as we have discussed, every time you press run, it creates an exe file. Let's try running that exe file. So we will go to File Explorer, and remember this is where our program is created. This is the exe file. So let's run this. Form comes up, press run, and you get something like this. And when you press continue, the form stays, but if you press quit, the form dies. So this is not good, because these kind of errors happen and they don't tell you what exactly happened. Now, if you're a programmer, you can actually double click here, and when the exception comes, you can go into detail. But when an ordinary user who has no clue about programming, has never taken a C# class, will be like, what's going on here? So this is not a good way to, or a good message to show it to the user. So exceptional handling allows you to do a graceful exit of the program. So let's now put this in an exceptional handling block. So the exceptional handling block in C# is called the try catch block. We have another section called finally, but in this beginner's video we are not going to discuss finally. Let's just simply add a try and catch. So try, let me first write this down. So what this try catch allows you to do, so you give a try, you give a within braces, you execute this code, and if an exception happens, it will automatically come back to the call the catch routine. So your program is not going to exit, it's not going to give that ugly message that we saw when an exception happened. It's going to give a more graceful message here. So we can actually pop up a message box in case any exception happened and say, sorry, could not compute. Change this to show. Alright, now let's run this program. Let me remove the breakpoint. Oops, we have an error. A does not exist. Oh, okay, so we actually have to move this within the try block. So if all of this, if this line runs, then it will show a message box and it's not going to go into catch routine. So now let's run this. Sorry, could not compute. So it handled the exception. So there was an error at this point and it immediately jumped here. Now let's add some breakpoints and show you how the actual execution works. So we press start. As soon as we press run, this line executes, nothing wrong here. Go to the next line. At this line, the exception happens, right? Now it will jump automatically to the catch block. And then within the catch block, it's going to execute messagebox.show sorry could not compute. Oops. And then we resume, continue. It will give us a sorry could not compute. Now let's change the value of b to 1, which means no exception is going to occur. Now let's see how the execution happens. We start again, press the run. B is 1. Go to the next line. Now this is 10 by 1. No exception happens here. It will go to the next line. Answer is toString. This message box will come up. After that, it will jump over the catch. So do remember that if no exception happens, the code inside this is not going to get executed. And then it comes back. And if you press run again it goes through the same cycle and displays the message. Now another thing you can do here is in the catch block you can catch the exception. Now EX basically is creating an object of type exception, and again this EX object is passed by the operating system. You don't have to worry, and this EX will have all the details about the exception. So you can choose to actually display the error message. So EX has all these properties and functions, so you can just say ex.message. This will give you the detail about why that error happened. Now in this case, if you're doing a division by 0, let's change this value back to 0 so that we get an error. The message will actually show division by error or division by 0. And this error message is directly coming from the operating system. So let's run this again. Sorry, could not compute attempt to divide by 0. Now the attempted to divide by 0 is directly coming by the operating system, and that is the string value assigned to ex.message over here. So as you can see, exception handling can be very useful if your program does a graceful exit, and this is pretty much a requirement if you're doing professional software development. Now try removing the catch block. Let's go see if we comment this code out. So you're going to get an error because try has to have a catch block. It's not going to run. Now if you again execute this code without the try catch block, let's see what happens. Again, you get the division by 0. And if you run it directly from code, same thing happens. You're getting the error because you're not doing any exceptional handling. Now let's quit this and enable the exceptional handling. And now we'll run the code directly from the executable file. Let's build the solution. Go back to this. We can actually run it from here also. Run it. Attempted to divide by 0. Now we'll go and run the exe. Run. Sorry, could not compute, attempted to divide by 0. So the form is there. You don't get any ugly message or anything. Your program handles that exception and does a graceful exit from that. So by using exception handling, you can add some more like user-friendly messages here. It's not going to come with that default .NET message, which can confuse any user who's not familiar with programming. Alright, that gives you a brief overview how to use exception handling. Now you can try this in your own programs. If there are any questions, you can leave it in the comment or put it in the discussion board. Thank you for watching.